So we wanted to welcome everybody back to Big Fantasy Energy. We are on,
Yeah.
I don't even know what episode this is now.
Episode 7.
Episode 7. And Ashley, our theme for the last few episodes has been
Creatures of the Night.
creatures. See, I always want to say monsters of the night. That's why I
Yeah.
literally just nonchalantly plugged Ashley.
You're
Anyway, so
up.
welcome back. Yeah, I'm like, what is it? Welcome back to Big Fantasy Energy. I'm Jared.
I'm Ashley.
And we are talking about the book Bride today. And we're super
By
excited about it.
Ali Hazelwood.
Who you just recently saw, right?
Yeah. I just met her and she's so sweet. She's so funny. I think I was saying in the last episode, she's absolutely obsessed with Abigail Owen's new book, which that's like all she wanted to talk about. But I'm seeing her again in October. So Ali, that is. Because we're on a
Yeah.
first name basis now.
Yeah,
Like,
besties. Yeah,
yeah.
you also, like, I know we talked about this maybe last episode. You also got a book signed for me, the book that we're talking about. So that's super exciting.
Yeah. So how this works is I'm going to run through the summary, then I'm going to give my review, then Jared will give his review, and then we'll head into the spoiler section, which I am so excited for because Jared's never read a book like this before, and this is also his entry into what is dubbed on like AO3 and things like that as the Omegaverse. So it's very lightly
Okay.
in that if you know what that is.
I don't know what that is, so I'm so excited for you to tell me about it.
Yeah.
But
I'll tell you about it during the spoiler section because I think
Okay.
it's going to fit best there. So,
let's do it.
so yeah, this book starts off and, Misery, her name is Misery, loves company, not really, but she has always wanted to belong, but no one has ever picked her. She's been living as a vampire. She's been living with humans for the last 15 years. Most of that time has also been spent as vampire collateral with humans, which basically means she's their hostage in case their alliance like ends and she's gonna be the first one who's killed. So that's great for her. So she's been living with humans basically since she was 8 years old. It's 15 years later, and she's never really learned how to be a vampire. She doesn't have a lot of knowledge on what vampires necessarily do. She doesn't have she's not really enmeshed in the culture of vampires. Her only companion, friend, sister is this human who was brought in to like keep her company as a child. Now that sister is missing, and Misery can't find her. She can't find her anywhere, no matter how much like backdoor internet sleuthing, because this girl's a hacker, she's a coder, she's living that STEM life. So she gets called in after she's like been searching for her sister. She gets called in. She has no choice. She has to go into the head of the Vampire Council's office. This person happens to be her father, and is told that she is once again needing to play collateral slash like sacrifice for vampires. She initially refuses because this is so much worse than when she was a child, because now she's being asked to marry the alpha of a local wolf pack who is their number one enemy, and there's been lots of death, there's been lots of just war going on between these two groups. They're enemy number ones to each other.
Rivals.
Rivals at the best. And so Misery doesn't want to help the vampires, these people who have never helped her, who never cared about her, who actively traumatized her, who picked on her. She wants nothing to do with it. She doesn't want to help them in any way because they've never done anything for her. But she is sitting there and she's thinking about it. She doesn't want to put herself in danger. The only thing that stops her is her father mentions who this is, and it's Lowe Moreland. Now she's kind of like, well, I gotta go do this. She has to do this because the only thing she has left from when her sister, her best friend, went missing is a note that she left in her diary, her calendar, sorry. And it says L.E. Moreland. So the only way she's going to be able to find her sister, the only way she's going to be able to figure out what happened to Serena is to marry the werewolf. So the wedding happens, lines are crossed.
Things we do for friends, right?
Right. But even after she's there, she moves into the alpha's home. Even once she's there, everything's not as it seems. Mysteries pile up, assassination attempts continue against Misery and other people, but worst of all, Misery can't stop looking at the Alpha, who's supposed to be her enemy. So that's where we dive in.
I love it.
Yeah,
Okay, so
yeah,
I already know I already know like your overall review because I saw it on Goodreads. I may or may
yeah.
not have looked on accident.
On
Oh,
accident purpose.
on accidentally on purpose. Okay,
Yeah,
so what did you tell the listeners? What did you rate the book?
yeah.
Or what's your
So
review?
I will also say this. This is the second time I've read it. I read it once for the book club that I'm in here in Austin. And the first time I read it, I rated it 3.5. I went into it, and I'm going to be completely honest, I went into it going, I don't think Ali Hazelwood's an author for me.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
Okay.
I went into it kind of like expecting not to like it. So it colored my experience of it a little bit. I also went into it because she had noted that she was taking a lot of inspiration from Nalini Singh, who is one of her favorite authors, who is also one of my
Your
favorite
favorite
authors.
authors, right?
So when she said that, and this is totally unfair on my part, when she said that, I also was like, this is nothing like Nalini Singh. And
Okay.
like, I was like, you're like, I don't see the inspiration, but that means nothing because inspiration to anyone can mean anything, and that's absolutely fine. So I went into it with the wrong mindset the first time.
Right. So maybe
This
it
time I
wasn't
went,
like it was like
yeah,
influenced, but in her mind in a different way than like what you would have thought it
yeah,
would have been written
yeah.
like.
So I went back in, read it the second time after having met Ali, which also colored it a little bit.
Yeah.
I won't say that
Right.
my rating changed. My rating didn't change dramatically. I went from a 3.5 to a 4. So I rated this book 4 stars. I think it's really great. I loved it. I thought it was a lot of fun. For Spice, I rated it 3 stars. I think that it's definitely up there. Definitely some different stuff than what we're used to, a little bit kinkier stuff. But I don't think it's crazy explicit. I don't think it's crazy graphic for the most part. And there's only a couple of scenes that are like super sexually.
Yeah.
Yeah. So 3 stars for me. Overall, I really like this book. I enjoyed the whole mystery aspect of it. There was several kind of mysteries going on. I think that the world was really interesting. The characters were smart, funny, very charismatic. I was enthralled with them. I think that this story had so much like charm and energy to it. I will say the second time I also listened to quite a bit of it on an audiobook, and I really connected with Misery more listening to the audiobook because I could hear the sarcasm that the that she was bringing forward better than just on page, and so I really liked that. I thought that the relationship between the two main characters, Misery and Lowe, moved at a nice pace. I felt like it made sense. It wasn't like insta love. They were trying to figure things out. I also think that because of that, the choice to have the story told from just Misery's point of view makes a lot of sense because she doesn't know so much about vampires, doesn't know a lot about werewolves and stuff like that. Like it allows for us to like for her to learn at our pace, and it makes sense for her to be learning these things for the first time. So I typically like dual POVs in situations like this, but I think that having it in just first person, just for Misery, made a lot of sense for this story. I was initially, the first time I read it, I was extremely irritated with how bad Misery was at being a vampire. I thought it was kind of silly. Like, how could she, like, come on, man. Like, how do you not know this stuff? But it really irritated me that a lot of times that, like, she's someone who was, like, so smart, but someone who was so capable in so many things. But then they had her kind of being like, what do you mean vampires can't do that? Or what do you mean this happens? And like asking questions like, what happens when you feed from someone? Like that initially annoyed me. But like I said previously, like once I like digested the whole book and really sat with it, like it made sense from a POV perspective, from like how she experienced life and things like that. So it really bothered me less. Ali Hazelwood is really known for writing those super smart STEM women. That's like it's kind of like her thing. And as a neuroscience scientist herself, like that makes complete sense. And I really liked that. I think that her characteristics and like how she interacts with people, kind of this social ineptness sometimes, the like uncertainty and just kind of awkwardness is very reminiscent of a lot of the experience that I have with developers in my work and like
Mm-hmm.
just in life. And so it felt real to me, like it grounded me a lot more. um I also loved that like Lowe was super strong, like he is alpha and he is like in charge of things and he is doing his like protecting everyone and doing all that, but he is so soft on the inside, like he's so like gushy, and I'm like I enjoyed that. Because
Which you don't always
this
enjoy. I feel
no,
like.
because I'll say this, they set up from the beginning, I think that they set it up pretty well from the beginning, like pretty early on, that he wasn't supposed to be the bad guy. Like
Right. He was
he's
just he
not
was right.
he was never morally gray. He was never like a like that kind of character. So like that's fine with me. I think
Mm-hmm.
that it was great. So I think it was a really good balance for her and for the story. Anna is adorable. Alex, I liked him a lot too as side characters, as like this bumbling kind of scared, like you just want to like poke him kind of character.
I loved Alex. Yeah.
Yes. Like so I really liked a lot of the side characters. This story was a really light, gentle entrance into the Omegaverse, which is a werewolf term of
Okay.
in stories, and it's basically the biggest thing that comes in those is the idea of nodding, which we see in this story. That's kind of like the bigger thing, and we can get into
Okay.
that in the spoiler
That makes
section.
sense because I was
Yeah,
literally like the whole nodding thing. It was the only thing that I was kind of like, hmm.
yeah, yeah,
Okay.
and yeah, and we can discuss that in the spoiler section. But
Okay,
that's
perfect.
where like that's like the biggest thing that's like Omega verse in this.
Got it.
But
Okay.
the story had all the rom-com hits with paranormal twist. There wasn't like a lot of cheese. There's still some of it, but not a lot of it. It was a fun way to spend an afternoon. I would definitely say it's a good entry book if you're not used to like reading paranormal romance.
Uh-huh.
And yeah. Oh, and I did have one call out in the actual text that I was just like, are you fucking kidding me?
Oh
In like
God.
a good way. And it was on page 186. And Misery says, you realize that that's not a sentence, right? It's just a temporal subordinate clause. And I was like, listen, the way I could never, with my degree in creative writing, the way that like I
Oh
honestly, I
no.
almost have a complete second degree in English. I took classes on sentence structuring and like diagramming and like breaking down sentences into their parts. The way I would never be able to tell you what that was. The way I would never have been able to say, oh, it's just a temporal subordinate clause. I like Ali Hazelwood is so smart. And I was like, damn. And I'm like, I sat there and I was like, in my head, I was like, I wonder if like she wrote that and then her that people editing the book had to go back and look for what that was. Like I fully like expect someone on that team had to go and Google it because they were like, I don't know what that is.
Yeah, I
Like
mean, I don't know what that is, and I didn't
exactly. I
Google it.
still wouldn't be able to
So
tell you what it is.
yeah, I didn't.
So
I was like, I'm not checking that.
yep, yep, yep.
Oh my
Mm.
God.
So anyway, yeah, that's my review though. I really enjoyed it. I thought it was a lot of
Yeah.
fun.
I'm kind of
So
surprised once I get through my review, I want to ask, like, I have questions to you about why, and you kind of already shared why you thought it was 3.5. I kind of thought you would have rated it higher initially, but I mean,
yeah,
it did end up with a 4. But
yeah.
anyway, so my review, I gave Bride 4 stars.
Wow, I was expecting you to be in like the 3.53 range. I'm
Yeah, I
shocked by
thought I
that.
was gonna rate it higher than 4, but then I was like,
Really?
yeah, I really, really liked it. And then as I kept reading, I was like, okay, I was trying to compare it to other books that I've rated 4, and I'm like, okay, I
Oh,
loved
see,
those. I don't think I loved this more than those, so I kept it at a 4. But it was like
see,
a
I don't.
very in sorry,
Sorry,
go
I'm
ahead.
like, I don't do that. Like, I rate
Oh
books
yeah.
purely on their own. Like, because it's the moment that you're making me feel. In that moment, like am I
Yeah.
feeling this rapture?
Fair.
Then yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Totally.
But I mean,
And
plays are completely fine. But
yeah.
I always find it really interesting when we do things like that differently.
Yeah.
So
I
yeah,
think, well, I mean, I also back to our ratings, it was like 4s we loved it. So I'm like, I did
yeah,
love it. Like I did really
yeah,
enjoy it. I was really entertained by it, but I wasn't, when I was like going back to our ratings and I'm like, okay, I wasn't obsessed with it, but I like
yeah,
right
yeah,
after I was like, damn, I really liked that. Like I really,
yeah,
really enjoyed it. I thought, it was different in some ways that you will kind of talk about later than stuff that I've read before, but it didn't feel like totally out of left field because it still felt like fantasy to me. It was just like, okay, it's a romantasy, like these two people
yeah.
like each other, oh, werewolf vampires, let's see. I thought it was, you said this too, the word that I wrote down was, I just thought it was really charming. Like the entire
Yeah.
book, I just thought it was like cute, and I liked all the characters. I was emotionally invested kind of from the beginning with
Yeah.
Misery's story. And then there are multiple storylines of like siblings and things like that,
Hmm.
which I've said this before. I'll probably say this a
You
million
love it.
times. I love the sibling vibe. So Lowe, the main male character, he has a sibling that's a big part of the
Hannah, love
story.
her.
Yes. And then
She's so cute.
Misery's brother, like they have a relationship that is interesting. And then her, adopted, or however you want to call
Hmm.
it, her sister Serena. So a lot of good moments. And then also there was a lot of like family drama, which I always love for. And then I thought
Yeah.
Misery's story of just, I really liked her character because she just never felt like she fit in anywhere. And I am a
Yeah.
sucker for like the outcast who like doesn't feel like they fit in. I just love that.
Yeah.
Thought what I liked about her so much was I never, and this is just how I read it, feeling like an outcast. She addressed it. She talks about it. She has, not had the easiest life, but like I never thought she was like whiny about it. Like
Yeah.
she was kind of like, she took it in stride. She was tough. Like she didn't use it as like an excuse for her to not
Hmm.
continue, you know, I mean, she's a badass, I thought. And I thought she was
100.
very
Yeah, I agree.
intelligent. I thought she had a lot of attitude. I thought her character was a little spiky. Like she didn't, like she just
Yeah.
was, she had a soft interior, just similar to Lowe. But I almost thought Lowe read more gentle
Yeah. Oh,
than
100%.
Misery. Like I thought Misery
Oh,
was a little
yeah.
bit more tougher exterior. And I just really liked her. I liked a lot of the side characters. I thought, like you said, like kind of the mystery of twist of like who are the bad people, like that was intriguing. It wasn't like anything like, oh my god, the end.
Yeah.
But I was still like, oh, who is it? Like I have some ideas, but let's see. um but yeah, I really, really enjoyed it. I thought it was a 3 spice too, and I
Hmm.
liked a lot of the spice. I enjoyed it more than other books that we've read recently.
Hmm.
But I did, which we'll talk about later, I did kind of like not super love the word not.
Yeah.
But if that's part of like the whole make, like I've had a feeling, I was like, I don't want to shit on this
Yeah.
because it's probably like a much bigger thing, because like it just
Yeah.
seems so random for it to have used that terminology
Yeah.
unless it was something that is used, which you're
Yeah.
telling me that it is.
Yeah.
um but I I thought, without getting into any spoilers, I really liked the book. I thought it was fast paced.
Hmm.
It's a standalone, so it was super easy. I liked the
Here's the
world.
thing. Is it a standalone?
Oh no, is it not?
It left on a pretty big.
It could totally be another book, but
Yeah, that's I mean, like, she hasn't come out and said it, but
oh, okay. Hmm.
I think it left itself completely open for this to be a new world.
Oh, I would totally be down if you're listening to this and you want to write a second book,
Yeah,
go
please
for it,
do.
girl. Yeah. But yeah, I thought
Please.
4 stars. I really enjoyed it. Um, and 3 spice. So
Yeah,
I was super happy with the read. I like was all giggly inside after. I was like, that was such a good book. I just really,
right?
it made me feel all the things I like to feel, and like a low investment. I felt invested in the characters, but it didn't feel like my
It was low
emotions were like
pressure.
going through. Yeah, there wasn't. Yeah, that's the exact right way to say it. It was just low
Yeah.
pressure.
Yeah.
And I thought it was really entertaining. Like I read it. One of
Yeah.
the girls on the team that I coach saw me reading, and she was like, "Oh, I just finished that," and she really liked it. There wasn't really
Yeah.
anything that pulled me out. I was just kind of a little like about the nodding, but
Yeah.
um, yeah, that's my review.
I love that. I think that like this is the perfect kind of book for like a cozy, chill, like
It was such a
fall
cozy
day.
chill. Like I was just
Like
genuinely
for
just
this time
chilling
of
reading it.
year, for just like a cozy chill, like not too much is going on. I just wanna like an evening kind of read. I think that this is perfect for that.
Yeah.
Like after work, you just want to de-stress, don't want to like work your brain too much. This is perfect
Hmm.
for that. I
Yeah,
loved it.
100%.
Um, so moving into the spoilers section.
Spoilers.
Okay. I want to start off with the nodding. So
Okay,
yeah,
yeah, please. That's literally the only
yeah,
thing I was kind of like, okay, I gotta get into this because
yeah. So the Omegaverse, and mind you, I haven't read a whole lot of it, but the Omegaverse, and I wouldn't even necessarily be able to explain to you necessarily what the definition of Omegaverse like is, but typically, not typically, it always is werewolf uh books.
Mhm.
There's the idea of an alpha and there's the idea of an omega, which is, the opposite end of the chain. Omegas in these books are typically super revered for their mating and like procreating abilities. And more often than not, there is this terminology used of nodding, which is the idea that the base of the man's penis swells to basically keep everything inside, as they explain in the book. It's to
Mhm.
help make sure the woman becomes pregnant. Um, so this is very mild in that this book is, but like, how did you feel about that beyond just like not necessarily understanding it? Like,
Yeah, I didn't fully understand it, and I also like didn't love. I just didn't care for
mhm,
the
yeah,
like. I thought the scenes were hot, but like it did kind of take me out a little bit because I was
yeah,
kind of
like
whether,
what's
and I did,
happening?
yeah, and I didn't want to say it was her writing because I just didn't really get the concept of it. So,
Yeah,
and then at the end of the book, I was like, okay, I kind of get it more now, but I
yeah,
just didn't really like it. Didn't really do anything for me. I wasn't like, oh,
yeah,
this is hotter. If anything, it made me be
yeah,
like, I don't really need this. But I mean, I
yeah.
get it's part of
I
like the
agree.
species or whatever. But to
Yeah,
me, I was like, and also just I don't like the word. That has nothing to do with
no,
like who decided that was the word that was going to be used. That's
yeah.
fine. But just like the
It's
word,
terminology that actually comes from the animal kingdom.
yeah, well then I don't want it. But yeah, I don't like
Yeah,
it. But I mean that's
yeah,
just me personally. Like whenever he would use like not or whatever, I
yeah,
was like,
yeah.
it just doesn't like I was just kind of like I forced myself because I liked the book to not let it take me out. But I was
Yeah,
like, I don't like that.
yeah. No, I'm not a fan of it either. Really, I don't I don't necessarily. I don't think it's necessary in a lot of these books. I also am not a fan of pregnancy tropes. So for me, nodding correlates really closely with that because the whole idea is to keep the semen inside so that the girl can get pregnant.
Right.
I'm not a fan of pregnancy tropes, so I don't like
Yeah.
that idea. Um, I also don't like in my own personal life the idea that I would have to be touching someone constantly for 30 minutes or
Yeah.
so. That's a lot
After.
of touching and I don't want it.
Well, and
And
there are times where you might want to afterwards, but there are times where you
yeah,
don't. So I'm just kind of like,
yeah,
wait, I'm just subject to this every single time. I don't know.
yeah.
I mean,
And in
definitely
the
like I thought the idea of like, I mean, regardless of what term you use, like
yeah,
talking about like the sheer size of things like can be
hmm
hot. So I was like, okay,
yeah,
and I think reading it, I just knew I'm like, okay, this must be something about like the world that I don't know, and
yeah,
I'm not gonna shit on it. But to me, it didn't. Like it didn't do anything for me, and I would have enjoyed it more if it was out of the book, if we're just being
Yeah.
honest. So
Yeah, I agree with you completely. I think that like it also yeah, for me it wasn't super necessary. And I'm like it didn't add anything, so it's not like they're two different species, so can they even get pregnant is also the kind of thing. So yeah, anyway, but also in the book they did say that it only happens with mates,
yeah,
because there's the other spoiler, which that was something that, like, mind you, we're learning things, things are unfolding when she learns them.
right,
But immediately when she saw him, chapter one, six
girl,
weeks earlier, I was like,
girl.
that's her mate.
Yeah,
She's his mate.
at the wedding, yeah, I
Yep.
was like, they're
Yep.
mates. Like,
Even
hello.
even the whole this other girl's his mate, that never got me for a
Never,
second.
never, no, not,
Not even for a
not a
second.
moment. And I was also like, girl, is it really getting you? I was like, misery. Come on, girl.
Yeah.
You know
There
you're
were so many things. Like, why do you think he took the time to sketch your face and put it in his panty drawer?
which I
So
literally have written down that I thought that was so cute. I was like
it's so cute.
having her portrait drawn when she found it in the drawer. I was like, oh my
Yeah.
God, that's
It's
so
adorable.
sweet.
It's
It
so
was so cute.
cute.
But
But
also, I
also,
misery not knowing.
do you think he keeps pictures of his enemies in his underwear drawer?
Also, when he was
Like,
so cryptic about the mate thing, I was like, he's literally walking you to it. Like he's
yeah,
literally hand guiding, like,
spoon feeding you
hey,
this.
girl, I'm basically saying, and she was asking all the right questions, and I was like,
Yeah.
how is she not getting this, girl? Like,
And
how?
then he's like, and then they're like, she finds out, and then he's like, no, you're not. You're like,
No.
this is just easy sex. And I was like, girl, you're gonna fall for that too, because
Well, and she did fall for it, and I
that's
will
the
say,
most.
I did feel bad for her a little bit because I was like,
I did
oh,
feel bad,
because I was like, why is he
but
not admitting that he has his real feelings for her? Because poor thing is sitting here talking
yeah,
herself off a ledge, and then she does finally come to terms with it, and he's like, oh, actually, no, I don't feel that
yeah.
way. And I was like, bullshit. Like, and also, just like you
Also,
said, of course, I didn't believe that either. I was like,
no, but
okay,
then
100%.
also, like, how did she believe it? Those were my issues the first time around. The first time around reading it, I was like, how is Misery so dumb in so many circumstances, but so smart in so many others? Which also, like really thinking about like how I understand developers and stuff like that, I believe it. But also for me, it was just like, girl, like, how are you gonna believe it after like literally he's told you basically like four times that you're his mate,
Yeah,
because
I
he could
mean,
not
I
have.
didn't.
And I also thought it was weird that he didn't acknowledge, like he was like no at that moment, because
What a
if she
waste of a
spoon
time.
fed her this, because he spoon
Right.
fed her this before. So like,
Yeah.
did you think she was dumb and that she was never going to get it?
Yeah.
So I like that scene was really confused. Like, really, it didn't match the characters for me, because I didn't feel like Lowe would like act like that, because he's literally, the
See,
whole previous part
that
of the book was like, please figure this out, basically.
right. And I think that's why I was a little like I felt for her because I was surprised, not that they were
Yeah,
mates or any of that. I was surprised that that was his reaction because I was kind of like,
yeah,
and I get what he's saying is like to keep her safe and like blah blah blah. But I was like,
yeah,
you basically were hoping she would guess it the whole book. So
yeah.
now
But
when
then
she did
also,
guess it,
how is it keeping her safe?
right,
Because she's still his wife. They're still
right.
living together
And
at that moment. I mean, yeah,
spoiler, the people that wanted to kill her anyway, so it didn't really
yeah,
matter if
yeah,
she knew they were mates or not.
yeah.
So,
And
I mean,
it's the people that he thinks, like, he doesn't know who it is, but it's the people he thinks are would potentially want to kill her.
right.
So they wanted to kill her anyway. So
So, yeah, and I think too, like, I didn't like I when I read it, I didn't think of her as like being dumb, but I was just kind of like, girl, like you were
yeah,
oblivious, like hello. But I mean,
yeah,
we can, we're sometimes our worst
yeah,
enemy and where our inner
yeah,
saboteur takes over. But yeah,
100%,
I thought I was like,
100%,
misery, girl, he's literally so into you. I don't know why you can't see this. Like
100%.
he's clearly your mate. Like
And I was,
hello.
yeah, yeah. And then Anna's adorable. I loved her the whole time. I thought she
Loved
was the cutest
Anna. I
thing. I
loved
thought she was
Alex. He was like
hilarious.
Alex was like such a
Alex was
little
my
like
favorite.
such a little techie dorky cutie. Like I was just like,
And so
oh,
afraid, and it was adorable. It
he
was adorable.
was.
You could like, I feel like he'd be like that guy that you'd like go boo around the corner, and he'd like scream bloody murder, and it would make me feel joy every single time.
Mhm.
So
Like
I
every
also
time, like every
every
time,
single time,
like you would do it
every
to him
single
multiple times in a day, and he would still
time.
be like, oh God.
Yeah.
I liked
And
Mick a lot.
I would never not find joy in that. I would find
Oh,
joy every single time.
doesn't surprise me. I also really liked Mick, even though he did turn out to be kind of a traitor for like
Yeah,
a hot
which makes you
second.
even sadder.
But I did like him a lot. I
Hmm.
also thought, what's her face?
Hmm. No, I
The
know who you're
girl
talking about.
Juno, who like didn't like her, but
Yes.
then like turned around. I was like, oh, I love that. I love when there's like a, bitchy woman who like kind of
Yeah.
is the enemy, but then she's like, hey, actually, you're not too bad. Like I got your back. I love that
I will I
situation.
will also say I was really happy that Serena wasn't a bitch. Like I was really happy that
I
Serena
loved
wasn't.
Serena.
I loved Serena. I was really nervous about halfway through that it was gonna be like Serena's actually like really resentful,
Or shitty, or like just being a shitty
like the
friend.
wolf of fire like
Oh
sister.
God. Yeah,
That's
yeah,
what
yeah.
I thought. I was really nervous that she was gonna turn into like that kind of character, and I'm so happy she didn't. I
Mhm.
really liked her, and I actually really liked the whole twist slash
Me
storyline of her
too.
actually being a hybrid too.
I thought it was so perfect. Like
So
that whole scene,
yes,
it's like the end of, I wrote it down. It's like the end of chapter 28 was like just like perfection for me. Like finding out that she's half where her brother walking in thinking he betrayed her and all this stuff. And
yeah,
then bam, they turn into wolves and they like fuck up her family and her dad. I was like,
right,
that was like so perfect for me. I literally just I put in my notes like end of chapter 28 and then just like applause. I
yeah,
just really, really
yeah.
liked it. Yeah.
I thought that like the twists, while not like super earth shattering, were still surprising enough to
Mhm.
make me go, oh, okay. Because like it's not like super shocking, but it's not where I thought it was going
Totally.
necessarily.
Yeah, like I
Like
wasn't shocked that her
I
dad was
still
the
thought that wasn't shocked.
yeah, I
Thought he was
wasn't
going to
shocked,
be a
but
bad guy. Sorry, we're both
no, go
doing
ahead.
it.
No, no, do it. Go, go, go.
So, I I I like that he was like the bad guy. Like we knew he was gonna be a bad guy, but he wasn't like for a while there. I was like, he's not gonna be the bad guy, and then he
Totally.
was the
And
bad
then he
guy.
was. Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
I think we all knew like, oh God, he sucks. He's awful. I'm sure he's involved in some shady shit. Or I could see him being like the problem for the werewolves, like doing something shady
Hmm.
to the werewolves, and then like Misery has to like step in somehow.
Yeah,
But I didn't expect him to be like the main culprit of all of the problems. So I loved that. I thought
yeah.
it was like it was interesting and I liked it.
And I thought it was really interesting the vampire's stance on like the good of the many versus the one. Because that's like a moral, ethical like stance that
Or it's trying to be.
well, no. I mean, like in our society, like it is, but it's like, what if you take that too far? Is kind
Right.
of how this is going.
Totally.
Which, but then what if you take it too far and you take it too far in a way that is to serve yourself? Because at the end of the day, the needs of the many, it was to serve himself, to keep himself in power.
Oh,
So,
yeah,
like,
totally, totally
yeah,
delusional and twisted like priorities. Like
yeah,
he could have made anything sound like her dad could have made anything, oh well it's for
yeah,
the good of the many because
better, yeah.
I'm in charge of the
So
of the vampires.
I
So I
know what's
know
the
it's
good of
better.
many.
So because
Yeah.
I need this to happen, it's better for all of them. Like, girl, get out of here.
Hmm.
It's like, no.
Mm. So I also wanted to talk a little bit about, I want to compare and contrast two books that we've read,
Okay.
A Broken Blade and this one, The Eyes, the Blood. This is how you do it and not make it confusing as fuck.
Oh my God, that is such a good point. I didn't even think about it because it didn't even register in my mind because it wasn't confusing.
It
Like
wasn't confusing because
I
it
was
didn't
literally, I'm not
matter.
kidding you. I literally was just like reading this book, like, yep, everything makes sense. There's nothing like confusing me. Like, oh, that
Yeah.
makes sense. It's natural. When she
Yeah.
introduces stuff, makes sense. Like,
Uh-huh.
I will say, like,
Like it's this book has it,
yeah,
but doesn't feel the need to like make it this big ass fucking deal. And just moves on. It's a
or make it
thing.
so confusing.
Yeah.
Oh God. And she
So,
didn't like, she wasn't like, here's the dictionary of, you know, creatures and their eye colors. Like she didn't do it
yeah.
so bland like that. Like it still made
Yeah.
sense. It just, yeah, I just,
Yeah.
obviously I love the Halfling Saga series,
Yeah.
but it's like,
But
girl, it doesn't
that
have to be
part
the
is so
heart. It
confusing. And
doesn't have
it's
to be
like,
the
this
heart.
is not. Yeah. Obviously, it really doesn't.
Yeah. Oh,
So,
crazy.
the last thing I wanted to talk about is we already kind of talked about it during your review. Cohen and Serena. Do we like
Oh my
that?
God.
How
Yeah.
it
I thought
leaves off? Like it leaves off so
so
perfectly for
cute. Yeah, I
another
was like,
book.
oh my God. And I liked Serena too. So I thought it was so
Yeah.
interesting. Like, oh,
But
she's his mate, but is he going to be her mate?
yeah,
Like,
but that's I mean like I don't think that I don't think that there's like a if it's a mate, it's a mate. It just kind of is
no,
what it
no,
is.
they said it in the book. They said that you can have someone else be your mate, but it might not be your mate. Like
Oh, okay, I missed that part.
they might
But
not
the thing
reciprocate it.
for me is that Cohen, because he's the alpha of that one,
Right.
like he took a vow of celibacy. He can't get married.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that. You're right.
Yeah,
Ooh,
yeah.
that sucks. Change it. Change up your
So
rules because he's gonna be wanting
so
to have
something's gonna happen.
he's gonna
So I'm
wanting
like, if
to
there's another book, there has to be another book.
well, I just thought, I mean, I guess authors do this, they can just say there's gonna be another book. I just thought it was like, oh, it's a standalone. That's it. Okay, cool. Um
It
I
doesn't
didn't
have like the series thing under it, like
mhm.
most books with series do. But it could just be that like she hasn't written it, she doesn't have a plan to write it just immediately because she is like turning out books. She already like published another book this year, and she has another one coming here pretty soon. So,
But you said this was her
um,
first in the fantasy realm.
yeah, yeah,
I mean, good for her. I liked it a lot. So
yeah.
I don't know.
Um,
I do think also I feel like this is so interesting. I can't believe I'm saying this out loud.
I'm so ready for it.
I'm just more of like a fantasy person. That's what I always tell myself. But then I've read a lot
Uh-huh.
of like queer fiction and I love queer fiction, but something about the way this book read, I liked the romance balance with like the spicy balance, like
Mm-hmm.
this I just thought I'm like, "Oh, I could see myself reading a romance book by her that's not fantasy." That's what I thought.
Oh,
When I genuinely
okay.
ended the book, I was like, okay, so she writes other romance books. I like the way she wrote this book. I could totally see myself being interested in the way she writes, like not fantasy. So I want to try one of her other books to just see.
Yeah.
Because normally I need some sort of other factor for me to be interested. But I feel like I like hers. I will say this is not a knock on her at all as an author.
No.
I will say there was literally zero queer representation in the book. So that
Yeah.
was the only thing I did, which is okay. Like it
Yeah.
didn't take me
Yeah.
out. I thought it was a great book. I really liked it, but at the end I was like, oh my, and it wasn't really like necessary to introduce, a
Yeah.
fluid or queer character. But the only reason I say that is because there were so many side characters, even
Mm-hmm.
very small side characters. I was kind of like, oh, I mean, not that she has to, it's not her job to by any
Yeah.
means, but I just did kind of notice it. I was like, oh, I don't
Yeah.
think there was a queer character in the whole book,
Nope.
but
Mm-mm. Also
really
say
liked
that
it.
there wasn't really a person of color in it either.
Yeah, she doesn't address, like, I feel like color, but she does
Yeah.
address it sometimes, but it's never a person of color. So I was
Yeah.
like, maybe I missed it, but I wasn't confident that there wasn't a person of color mentioned, but I was confident there wasn't a queer person.
Mm-hmm.
So I was like, interesting.
Yep.
But it's fine. I liked it a
Yep.
lot. I really enjoyed it.
I did
Um
too.
and
I really
I
did. I
liked
thought it was
the
cozy.
spicy scenes. I liked. I just the
Yeah.
nodding got me, girl. I was like,
Fair.
oh my
Fair.
god.
So,
So yeah.
any questions on your side?
No, I mean, I think my only question was it just the fact that you had heard stuff prior is why you didn't really, I mean, 3.5 is still really good
No.
reviews, but was there anything else that made you not really care for this?
No, once again, 3.5
It's still
is
great,
liked
right?
it to almost love it. Yeah. I also read this. We read it in February for our book club, and it came out in February. So we read it right when it came out.
Right.
I also got a special edition of it in my owl crate,
Ooh,
which is beautiful, and I really enjoyed it. I thought it was really pretty, and it made me more excited to read it. I purely went into it because I've read one other of Ali Hazelwood's books and didn't have a great time. And that's
that's right.
purely, yeah,
Okay,
that's
that's right. You
purely
told me that.
because, yeah, it's purely because I like all the ideas and I like the idea of like the woman in STEM and I like all that stuff. But I have a hard time reading really awkward or like socially awkward people because I am so that I feel so that like it makes my own anxiety ramp up. Because I'm like, oh my God, have I done this before? Oh my God. Like, and I start like rethinking about like all
Like
the
second
social
guessing how you
interactions
do
I've
things.
ever, yeah, yeah. So it wasn't a very calming read for me. This was a much more calming read, but
Okay.
like, but then also the biggest trip up for me was the Nalini Singh thing of like not framing it correctly in my brain. Because Nalini Singh is my like one of my
Favorite.
absolute favorite authors, and I will fight for her books until the end of time.
Yeah.
So I had a really hard time I went into it thinking it was going to be
More directly
Nalini,
correlated.
like
Yeah.
more Nalini reminiscent. Like I was
Yeah.
expecting more like even though she like writes these things that are like not super dramatically different things we've seen before, also though is usually different enough and has like some new aspects to it that like makes it feel really fresh. And so I was expecting that. And while this does that a little bit, it doesn't do it completely. Sorry, Belinda has to cure my sneeze.
Oh, I mean, if my favorite author or someone who I really enjoyed was mentioned in a book, like,
Yeah,
or by an author who's writing a new book, and I read it and I was like, this isn't the same. Like,
yeah,
not to say that they
yeah.
said it would be the same, but I think it would throw me off too. So,
Yeah, and then like she did write a blurb for the front cover and said that she liked it, and I like that did really help me a lot. But I went into it with the wrong mindset, and that is completely on me.
mm,
Um, because I really enjoyed it the second time. I enjoyed
yeah.
it more the second time. So yeah,
Okay, so I did want to ask, I have like kind of like two-part question. So one
yeah.
is I was looking at a lot of reviews and a lot of people had issues with the names. Like, did you have issues with
Misery
her
is a
name?
horrible name.
Okay,
I didn't
okay, I
like her
wanted to know
name.
it. Yeah, I didn't like care for it either way. I was like, really, that's kind of, I was like, is this her name or is
No,
this like a nickname? But it didn't like pull
no,
me out, but I have seen a lot of people have issues with that. So I wanted to know what your thoughts
yeah,
were.
no. I agree with that sentiment. It doesn't bother me to the point where like it's something I would note in a review, but like I don't. It feels too. It feels too on the nose for the things that she does, like how her character grew up. Like it feels too like she she killed like quote unquote killed her mother in like when she was being birthed. She creates misery for everyone, and then she goes into misery because she has to be with the humans,
Right.
and then she's still in misery because none of the vampires like her, and now
And maybe
she
that's what she wanted to do, like make it like super on the nose.
it's so heavy handed though. But like I do agree, but once again doesn't bother me enough that I would never like put that in like a review
Right,
of it
me
like and I
either.
hated her name. Like
Yeah, and I didn't.
I put that in my review of Firewolf. That's a
Oh,
stupid fucking name.
right, rightfully so. That's stupid.
Yeah.
I think too, though.
Misery doesn't bother me.
Yeah, I think it was also more of like maybe she wasn't trying to do this at all, and it didn't like. Obviously, I didn't put it in a review. I was like, oh, that's interesting, but I was kind of like, it's almost like too on the nose, like you said, or she tried too hard to make it a name that wasn't like a regular name that she literally made the most
Yeah.
obvious name ever. Like,
Yeah.
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
Well,
I was like,
and
okay, misery.
then you go with Serena, and Serena is like reminiscent. It's like has correlations to the moon. So like
with being a werewolf, a half were.
exactly.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, it was
now
cute. I
not
liked it. I just
all
didn't know if that
characters
bugged
are
me.
like that, but
Yeah.
no, it didn't bother me that much. I mean, it bothered me a little bit where I was like, it's definitely too on the nose. It's like definitely trying too hard in my opinion, but doesn't bother me enough to like
Yeah.
care about it.
Yeah. And then
So
did my last one, maybe you don't have like a specific moment, or was there like a quality, and I obviously have an answer for this because I wrote it down. But is
yes.
there a quality or memory or moment with Lowe that you thought was like the hottest, the sweetest, the cutest, or like where you found him really attractive? Or was it just like him in general?
Yours is the portrait in the
No,
drawer.
I actually have a
Okay.
different
I have a
one.
different one. Okay, I want to know yours first then.
Okay, so mine, what I found, it's just so silly, but I thought it was like super hot, but I thought it was so endearing when he struggled with technology. Like
Yes.
it was so cute to me, and he would get so frustrated. I was like,
He's like, if
oh,
I punch it, it'll get better.
like he was such a little, like he was so put together and competent in so many ways, and he's a great leader. And I just thought it was so endearing when I was like, of course he doesn't fucking
Yes.
know how to use technology.
Yeah.
Like it was,
No.
and that she made fun
No.
of him too.
Yeah.
I loved it.
100%. I really like the scene where she's been poisoned with the peanut butter and like is like struggling and like he's staying with her and then he turns into a wolf and is still staying with her.
Oh yeah,
I
that's
really
so
like
cute.
that scene. I think it's a really cute scene. Also, we haven't talked about this at all, but and I get like they explain kind of towards the end why she does it, but I had the hardest time figuring out at the beginning why she was sleeping in the fucking closet.
Yeah, I did too,
I was
actually.
like, wait, like, so she just always sleeps in a closet? Like, I'm
Yeah,
confused.
like let's go to the
Um,
closet.
and
Why?
then like I don't know if they explained it earlier and I missed it, but they explained it towards the end of like you need special windows. But
Mhm.
still, I was just like,
Yeah, I
damn.
didn't.
Also, I
They
want to
might have.
know
They
how.
explained the windows before, but I didn't know that they explained like its direct correlation to the closet until the end. So I was confused by
Yeah.
that too.
So, because I knew that they had like skins, they couldn't go out in the sun. She got burned by running in the sun to save Anna that one time. Like, I knew there was that stuff, but I missed the part about the windows earlier in the book. So, the other thing, really quick, that I want to talk about
Yeah,
is how are they going to like live their lives together moving forward? Because, like, he's awake during the day, she's awake at night. Like, yeah, they have a decent amount of overlap, but like not a lot. Like, is she like waking? I want to know what time they're. I needed it to be in the book. What time are you waking up? What time are you going to bed? How much time of that day is spent together?
yeah.
Because I don't want to spend all day with someone, but at the same time, if someone's my mate
So
and like we're living
it's
together,
so funny. It's so funny to me what things like just they like click in our brain, or they like
yeah,
snack something and then we can't focus on something else. Like
no,
this for you didn't register at all for me. And what we'll talk about next week, what we were
yeah.
texting about earlier, like there's just little things that I get hung up on that I'm like, I can't focus. Like,
But
why didn't
also,
you just tell me
why
this
didn't it
before?
upset you here? Why did it upset you? Because they don't give a city.
Yeah, but they it
They fly to California, but they don't tell us where they are.
yeah,
They're
but
in
they're not,
some mythical city.
but they say they just like are around mortals. Like it's not like it's like they're not
No, it's in
living
the
in a
United
separate.
States.
Yeah, but it's more of like it's not like the rules of the world to me were very clear. So I was like, oh, okay,
Okay,
like
okay, okay,
yeah.
okay. That's
No, I
fair.
know what
That's
you're saying,
absolutely
but
fair.
whenever it
Yeah.
clicks, and I'm like, why? But it's just funny that
Because
you're like,
this is the book where I was like, where are they?
oh, yeah, I didn't care. I was like, well, I don't know where it's at, but it makes sense. Like, to me, it was like, it just didn't think about it because I'm like, but it's not like they're like living the
Because,
secret world
but
separate.
also it's
I was
because
like,
paranormals are like out in the world,
right. And because
quote
they were out
unquote
in the
out.
worlds,
Yeah.
yeah. And they address it as such. Like, if they didn't, I'd be like, so where are they? Are they like kind of how Wolf of Fire, like, didn't really like fully address, like, they kind of were in the same world,
They were
but
in
not.
Chicago.
No, I know, but they were in the same world with the
Oh, yeah,
mortals,
yeah,
with like
yeah,
like, and that
yeah,
was
yeah.
kind of confusing for you because they didn't clearly state like what are the parameters of this world,
Yeah,
like how are they interacting. So, but
yeah.
you're right. It's like, do they just like hang out at night? Do they hang out? Do they get the window? Well, he did get the windows done in the cabin,
Yeah,
right?
but also because she's like can really only go outside at night, it's not like she's gonna switch up her sleeping schedule because then she'd be stuck inside all the goddamn time.
Maybe she will.
So
People do crazy things for their mate.
maybe they'll like switch their sleep schedules like a couple hours. I need this. I need Ali Hazelwood to come out with their daily schedules and post it
As a
online.
scientist, I'm sure she's thought about it. Like I'm
I
sure
mean, she
she's like,
probably she probably knows this already. I need to know what I'll tell her October 8th. I'll ask her.
oh,
I'll
there you
ask
go.
her this. Um, like raise my hand, like, hey, any questions from the audience?
Be like,
Hey, this is
hi.
super, super specific, but I need to know what their daily schedules are. When are they each waking up and when are they going to bed and how many hours a day are they spending together? Like
Yeah,
awake.
she's like an
Because
hour.
yeah, because I'm like, just enough time to fucking go on, but
Yeah,
like
exactly. Right. Well, not even because 30 minutes is just sitting there afterwards.
right? Because they're stuck.
Oh my God. So hour and a half. Oh
So
man.
yeah, I'm like, that's my concern is like after this book ends, what does life look like?
Hmm.
What are the logistics of it?
Fair.
And
I mean,
like
that's a fair
like
question. I didn't even care about it at all or think about it, but that
uh,
definitely
there's
makes
a
sense.
girl on TikTok who reads like these kind of books and like she'll read the whole thing and then she has like a scale and it's like how would like where would these people fall after this book is over? Like it's like immediately breaks up, like married 10 kids, like kind of goes through that scale. I don't know about this, but that's kind of where I was at the end of this book. I'm like, would these people like they're mates, but like if this was a real world scenario, would they be together if they couldn't like it's like you dating someone who's on third shift. Like it would be so hard. Like
Oh,
how
I
do you
have done
spend
that
time?
before, and it is
Yeah,
brutal. It is
and
brutal.
obviously you're not
And
together
we
because
weren't
I know your
mates.
partner now. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm like, and I know your partner now and I love him to death. So
Yeah, it's not him. Don't
obviously he's
worry.
not on third shift.
It's not him.
So
And
so
we weren't mates, so it definitely didn't work out.
yeah,
So
right, exactly.
yeah.
But yeah, anyway. So I do have a bookstore that I want to call out today.
Yeah.
There is an awesome independent bookstore. It's super North Austin. It is it once again here in Austin, Texas. It's super super cool. It's a smaller bookstore. It's an old house. It is called Black Pearl Books,
Mm.
and it is a Black woman owned bookstore here in Austin. It's a whole family. They were couple of them were teachers. Like I've heard them talking in the store about how they were like school teachers, which I think is
Hmm.
so cool. They also always shut down the store for like a month in the summer to like go and have family time, which I get from like a business standpoint. Like a lot of people will be like, bleh. But like I think that's so cool from like a work life balance, from like a protecting your family and like being together. But they also, once again, since it is a Black owned business, they have a host of beautiful like POC BIPOC authors that you wouldn't necessarily see a lot in some of the bigger stores.
Yeah.
They have a fantastic nonfiction section. They have a fantastic fiction and fantasy section, the YA section. They have a cute little area that's like gifts and goodies and stuff like that. I really, really like it. It's such a cool vibe. Parking, it's Austin. Parking is atrocious. Um, Not their
Always.
fault. That's just how it is. So it is up on Burnett. It's far north though. It's pretty far north, but it's a really cute area. And once again, that's Black Pearl Books. Um,
Ooh, I actually have never been
I
there.
yeah
I'm excited to
yeah
try it.
it's really cute. I really really like it. They host events there too, like book clubs and stuff like that. So it's a lot of fun. But
Awesome.
yeah, so Jared, do you know what's coming next?
I do know what's coming next.
What's coming next?
It's another book in our theme of creatures of the night.
It's
And
another book.
oh guys, guess what? It's a book. And it's called it's another book. It's called The Wicked in Me by Suzanne Wright.
Yes,
And it's
I'm
part
so
of
excited
a
about this.
series, right? It's part of a 3-book
Yeah,
series.
this is
2
the
books are out,
first one. Yeah,
and the
yep.
third comes out maybe next year. I don't know.
I don't know
But
yeah, it does come out next year.
it's the first book in the Devil's Cradle series.
Yeah.
So that'll
So
be next week.
strap in.
Ooh. But thanks for joining us this week. Oh, Belinda, thanks for joining us this week for Big Fantasy Energy. And we and Belinda will see you next week.
Yes, I'll see you next week.
Bye.
Bye.